Welcome back, guys. Those of you that are returning and those of you that are new, welcome to my channel. Start off with a wrist check. It's my 1968 Omega Seamaster, and this here is my 1965 Omega Seamaster from my collection. And it's been running weird. It's running fast, and sometimes it stops completely. So this has got a split stem, and to pull that out, we just pull on it. Try to use this air blow to pop this off. I've done it like that before, but couldn't get it this time, so went to the case knife. Try my best not to damage anything doing that. Now on this crystal you can see it's got the original Omega symbol in the center there. That's pretty cool. So to get this movement out, you have to turn that movement ring there, that little gold movement ring, and line it up with the movement holders. Now you'll want to stick around and see what we find on this one. I'm going to try this out instead of the plastic and see how it goes. This style's already got some scratches under it from previous services. I'm not sure if I'll like this or not. I may go back to the plastic method. It seems pretty good. Anyway, we'll put these hand levers under here and pop these hands off. Now to get this dial off, there's some dial screws in here that hold the dial feet in. Just loosen those up. And then there's one on each side. You can see that's pretty decorated under the dial. Let's go ahead and get a base time graph and see what we got. Really high beat error, running fast, no amplitude shown. Let's go ahead and get the wind out of this. To do that, I'll just pull tension on this ratchet wheel with a screwdriver and pull the click over and unwind it. I typically would like to use the crown, but with this being a split stem, that's not very easy to do. First thing I want to do is get this balance out of here. And let's check the hairspring, see what's going on. The hairspring looks in pretty good shape. So we're going to get this second pinion cock out of here. This is basically a bridge that holds the sweep seconds pinion in. It's mounted to the barrel bridge. You have to pull that out to get the sweep seconds pinion out to be able to take the barrel bridge off. The next thing I want to do is get this train of wheels out of here. Now this movement's a 611, which is part of the 550-560 family, just the manual wind version. A lot of the parts are interchangeable. Pesky screws. Sometimes when I'm working under the microscope, depth perception is an issue. I've been trying to get better at just doing all of my work under the microscope. That way it's more visible. Let's go ahead and get these wheels out of here. This is the third wheel. Don't see any damage. Pivots look good. No bent teeth. Okay, this is the fourth wheel. Same thing. No damage. Nothing really that I can tell. Now those actually went under the microscope a lot longer than what I've shown. I went more in depth with inspection on all these. I just cut them out to keep the video length short. So this is the ratchet wheel coming out here. Checking it for the same thing. Bent teeth, any warpage. No, yeah, still no damage. Here's the click coming out. And my screwdriver's magnetized. Go ahead and get this click spring out of here use this plastic pointer to keep pressure on it so it doesn't fly across the room. Now this crown wheel is a little bit different than normal. So sometimes you'll see that they have one left-handed screw. This one actually has two right-hand thread screws. It has to have two right-hand thread screws because if it only had one, it would back itself out. That's why the single screws are left-hand thread. Go ahead and grab this whole crown wheel assembly out of here. You see, it's got a little spacer under there. So next we'll go ahead and get this pallet bridge out of here and check out this pallet fork. I serviced this movement once before, really early on in my learning days of this hobby, and I didn't have all the correct oils and really didn't have any business being in a watch of this caliber at that time, but I got it cheap and was willing to learn on it. So let's go ahead and get this pallet fork under the microscope and see what we can find. Wow, you see that stone looks a little off. Let's check it out a little closer and see. Yeah, that pallet stone on the exit side is totally bent. Luckily, I have a spare 550 movement, and like I said before, the parts are interchangeable, so I have a new pallet fork ready to go. Go ahead and get this balance bridge out of here. Let's see what we're working with underneath there. This has got 3 screws. Holds it down with pretty much even pressure. A lot of oil under there. Too much oil. Get this barrel out of there. Not to flip this over to drop that, what they say is the great wheel, but the center wheel there. And to get that off, I have to take this date guard out. I'll go ahead and grab the whole assembly out of there. The hour wheel is stuck to the bottom there. Hour wheel looks good. This is the calendar setting wheel. Don't see any damage on that. This is the calendar set wheel. This one's the one that rotates every 24 hours to jump the date. See any damage on that either. Maybe a little bit of wear to oil that better this time around. Okay, so now we got to grab this cannon pinion out of here, and I'll use this little spring tool I have, and it works pretty good. And that'll drop that center wheel out the back, or great wheel, as it's referenced. That doesn't look to have any damage either. So we'll go ahead and get this setting lever spring out of here. The setting lever spring has 2 of these screws holding it down and 2 spots that align it. And it holds the minute wheel in and the setting wheel and the yoke and yoke spring. This is the minute wheel coming out now. It looks okay. This is the setting wheel coming out now. Check it out. It's pretty thick, but it doesn't have a taper, so it can go back in either way. And I'll put this plastic pointer here to hold pressure against this yoke spring. That way it doesn't fly across the room when I pop it out of there. I'm having a little bit of issue getting this. Let's see if I can take some pressure off this yoke. There we go. Pop the setting lever up, get some pressure off the yoke. Take some pressure off the spring, and now I can pry it up. There we go. I struggled with that. That's pretty deep in there. That spring is usually a lot easier to get out. Now this is the setting lever retaining spring coming out. Here's the yoke coming out. Now, to get this setting lever and crown stem and keyless works out, I have to push the setting lever from this side of the movement. And once I do that, I can pull this crown stem out, and the clutch wheel fell out, and then push the winding pinion out and pull the setting lever out. So this right here is the winding pinion. It's basically a clutch-like mechanism that spins the crown. You can rotate it one way freely or wind the watch the other way. This is the clutch wheel. And the clutch wheel allows you to slide back and forth to wind and time setting function. I lost some of the footage for this barrel spring. It was in pretty good shape, didn't have much issue, oiled it, put it back together. So let's go ahead and drop all this stuff down in here and get it ready for the cleaner. I put all the bridges into one, and then I put all the other small parts into the other. That helps me keep some stuff organized. And what I do is I just put all this stuff into these wire mesh baskets, and then I put them into a mason jar with my cleaning solutions and run them through the ultrasonic cleaner, except for these parts. Now, these parts, any of the parts that have shellac on them, I put into one dip and then blow air on them with my air blow to agitate them. The shellac will break down in certain chemicals, so I have to be careful with that. So I'll go ahead and get this balance set up there to dry. Here, this is 1300 going on here to lubricate where the barrel arbor will go into the main plate. We'll check. Feels like it's in there pretty good. It's a Husky Hair #1. We'll check all of these jewels, make sure they're all clean and nothing's cracked. This is a 9010 here going into where this great wheel goes. It's basically a center wheel where the center seconds pinion will go through. Get that lined up. Now this center wheel is driven by the barrel. Go ahead and put the barrel bridge on now. Do that, I'll line up the arbor and this center pivot, and then line up the screw holes. And it should drop right into place. It's not too many pivots to line up. Confirm that it's still engaging. Everything's moving easily. So here I'm going to put some 9010 on. And that 9010 goes there on that spring and on that top part of the pinion for the center wheel. Drop these screws in here. Get them tight. Make sure everything still rotates. Everything's free. Nice. And here's the escape wheel going back in. And I struggled with these pivots on the bottom of this main plate quite a bit. I ended up cutting a lot of that footage out. But here's the fourth wheel going in. And the one I struggled with the most was the third wheel. For some reason, I could not get the third wheel to line up. This fourth wheel gave me a little bit of issue here, but I did get it. Alright, so now the third wheel. Now this one gave me a ton of issue. It kept falling over every time I tried to set the main bridge back on. But here we go. That's after I got it set. And we'll get the bridge on there. Adjust the bridge a little bit. So the third wheel is engaging, but the escape wheel is not. So we'll mess with that a little bit. So I got a couple of the pivots lined up. Let's Okay, let's hold some pressure on this and see if I can line these up better while I hold the bridge down. Husky hair number 2. So I'm going to use this other end of this plastic pointer to hold a little bit of pressure, very, very light pressure, while I adjust the pivot on this. Got that one to drop in, and look, all 3 of them are in. So I'll go ahead and give it a little bit of a press just to make sure. Spin it, and yep, they're all engaging and spinning freely. We'll go ahead and get this screw back in here to hold this bridge down. And once I like to put these in slightly, check and make sure they're still spinning, and then tighten them again. So here's some 90-10 going on the exit stone of this pallet fork here. This is the new pallet fork from that donor movement I have. Drop it into place. All of these pivots seem to give me some issue on this. Put the bridge on. Bridge dropped right in. Get a little closer look, and that pivot's in there. Let's go ahead and press it down a little bit, and then we'll get the screws in. Like I said, I always like to constantly check that the pivots haven't come out before I tighten these screws down all the way, because you could break one of these really easily. So I get these just barely snug, and then check it, and then retighten. Here's some 90-10 going on these pivots and jewels for the train of wheels, and 90-10 here as well. This is 1300. Top of that barrel arbor. Any higher friction areas or metal on metal contact, I use this. Get it on the click spring area. And that just helps keep wear out on these higher frictions areas. It's a higher viscosity lubricant. Hold some pressure on this click spring so it doesn't fly across the room. Nice. Let's get the click in. Make sure it's aligned. Test its function. Okay, it's springing back. That's good. Seems like it's working pretty good. Husky hair number 3. So go hold some pressure down on this ratchet wheel and line this click up with it. And it's got to align with the square hole on the barrel arbor. Once that's good, I'll drop this screw in. Now that the screw's tight, we will put some wind in this watch this way. I don't like doing it this way, but with the split stem, it's the easiest way. Now, it looks like we got plenty of power running through. We'll go ahead and cycle this pallet around to spread that lubricant from the stones to the escapement. We'll put this crown wheel down. This is also 1300 going on here. And this is the core of the crown wheel. And this doesn't actually clamp against the crown wheel, it just clamps around it, and then it holds the crown wheel in place. So the crown wheel can't come off, but it's not actually held in tension by that. I forgot to show this center seconds pinion being installed, but I lubricated it with 90-10, slid it down and through that center wheel hole, and put the cock on. And there's some 90-10 going on the jewel. Go ahead and flip this movement over. Some 9501. This is a really high viscosity grease that goes onto these keyless works, and there's the winding pinion going in. This is the clutch wheel going in. And any of that blue grease you see is a 9501. And that's for like super high friction areas that get used a lot. This is a HP 1300 here going on the bottom side of that. Anywhere it's metal on metal contact. So I'll lubricate all of these posts here. It's a 9010 going into these jewels. This is the other side of the train of wheel jewel set. It's 9010 going here. This is the calendar wheel. This one's the one that rotates and jumps the date every 24 hours. This is the minute wheel. This is the calendar setting wheel. That rotates off the hour wheel, gives you a reduction for 24 hours. This is the setting wheel that allows you to set the hour and minute through. This is the setting lever. This is the setting lever retaining spring, not to be confused with the setting lever spring. This is what allows you to hold the setting lever in place, and when you have to press that button on the other side, it pushes down to allow you to pull the crown stem out. Some more 9501 going on to the crown stem. Push it into place. There we go. Here's the yoke going back in. And the yoke aligns with that sliding clutch there into that little indention it has. There's the yoke spring. I'll get my plastic pointer back out once I get this aligned to keep it from flying across the room. I say that a lot, but that thing, if you're messing with these, you're definitely going to want to do that. Alright, looks like it's set. Put some pressure on it just to make sure. Yep. Okay, it's working. Put some more 9501 on all these contact points everywhere. This is the actual setting lever spring. It's got these two posts that help you align it. I'll set it into place and get these screws started before I actually put it onto the setting lever. Now to put it onto the setting lever, I'll hold tension against it and then push the setting lever down into the groove. But for some reason I can't get it. It looks like maybe the yoke is holding it up. Yeah, the yoke's definitely holding it up there. Okay. So we'll go ahead and push this yoke back against its spring tension. And once I do that, I'll hold it there with this pointer. And once I have that held, I can pull this setting lever back down to where it should be. And then I can get it aligned with the grooves in the spring. There we go. This is the cannon pinion going on. Make sure it's aligned with these minute wheel teeth. That way you don't bend it like the last one that was bent. That looks good. And you can usually press this down with a thicker set of tweezers. Put the hour wheel on. Now we're going to take this Inca block jewel setting out and I'll drop this whole thing down into some one dip and let it sit for a second. And this is where the balance pivot goes. So once you got it on out of the one dip, you can set it to dry. Make sure it's clean. And you want to get one singular dot of 90-10 right in the center. That's good. Now you want to line this up. Now if you set that off to the side, you'd have to redo that whole process. So get this Inca block spring back down in here, which I'm pretty sure this is an Inca block spring. I know the other one on the other side is. I'm not sure if the Inca block is the jewel setting name or the spring type. I know the other one is an Inca block for sure. That's just for size comparison to see how small that is. Alright, let's go ahead and get this calendar wheel set into place. We'll lubricate this here on the back side. I believe that was 1300. Drop this date guard back into place. And I use that Inca block setting to line up these holes, and then I use the screw holes. And I just hold some pressure on it with my finger and push on the date wheel to get it aligned with the spring at the top. Husky hair number 4. I'll hold this down with my little plastic tool so I can get these screws started. This is a pretty finicky process here. Not too bad though. Now let's see if we can... And yep, it's working. Cool. Let's go ahead and drop this balance back into place now and see what we got. I did put some wind in this watch earlier. Oh, look at that. It kicked right up. And then the balance cock's not even in place yet. It wants to run. Let's see what we got. Align these pivots up. You want to be really careful with this. So I got the pivots aligned. It's really running. It looks like it has higher amplitude than it had earlier. Going to get this screw down in here and tighten it up. This one is definitely the Inca block. You pop that little spring up, and the other process is the same as before. So after it's been through one dip, we'll set it back down into here, and then we'll pull this Inca block spring down. You want to be really careful. These are very easy to break. Let's get this spring down into its retainer on both sides. And that's it. Alright, let's go ahead and put this on the time grapher and see what we've got. Okay, it's within a couple seconds a day, 0.2 millisecond speed error, and it gets up to 241 degrees of amplitude, which that amplitude reading, it seems low, but I don't think it's getting a good reading. But the other stuff, that seems pretty accurate. And the watch has been running on my desk, and I wore it around, and it's still accurate, so I think it's going to be okay. Let's go ahead and get this dial back on here and tighten the dial screws up. And we'll drop this down into the case back. And here's what I'm saying about this retaining ring lining up there. So once you get that, you can pull this retaining ring down, and that'll hold the movement into place. Put the crown in, make sure the date function works. Get it to turn over at midnight, set the hour hand down. Line the hour hand up at 12, press it down. Do the same thing with the minute hand. Perfectly at 12, press it down. Check and make sure there's no interference. Doesn't look like it. We'll spin it all the way around. See where it sets midnight? That's pretty close, within 2 minutes. I'm okay with that. Get the seconds hand set. Okay, second hand is set. Press it down. We'll go ahead and check and make sure no interference. Cool. We'll set the time. So this was on the 27th. Nice. Go ahead and put the crystal down. Press it into place, and there we go. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. Stay tuned, there'll be more to come. And let me know what you think down there in the comments. We'll definitely see you again, and I really appreciate all the support and views. Thank you.